there was a point where he was delusional and having kind of episodes that were drug related, but brushes with the law and flirting with kind of homelessness and it was unsustainable. He'd been through rehab a couple of times unsuccessfully, and looked like it was just getting.
Today I'm here to announce that our office will be filing charges against Nick Reiner, who is accused of killing his parents, actor-director Rob Reiner, and photographer-producer Michelle Singer Reiner.
For most of his life, Ron Howard appeared untouchable. The calm one, the steady presence, the smiling legend who somehow moved through Hollywood without public collapse while so many others burned out along the way. His image felt flawless. His career looked perfectly managed. From the outside, there were no visible cracks, but what the public rarely sees is what gets buried beneath perfection. Behind that calm smile lived pressure that never fully disappeared. Thoughts he never shared, memories he carefully locked away. While the world applauded consistency and success, Ron learned how to carry weight quietly. Confidence became something he performed as naturally as any role. Stability became a shield. Now, everything feels different.
Ask me from the publishing world, did I ever think I would do an autobiography or memoir? And I always said, no, don't think so. But I asked Tom one day, and he said, well, if you ever do it.
After the shocking loss of Rob Reiner, something inside Ron Howard shifted. While much of the industry froze into silence, Ron began to speak. And when he did, it wasn't polished Hollywood language or carefully managed tribute statements. His words pointed towards something deeper: silent rivalries, unspoken emotions, and a level of respect that rarely survives into interviews. People weren't expecting this version of him, and that's exactly why it resonated so strongly. Reiner's passing clearly opened something buried. Ron began reflecting openly on how fragile the industry truly is, how quickly everything can flip, how even the brightest, longest careers are built on complicated bonds that don't always show themselves until something breaks.
The #1 show in television, and yet Andy wanted to move on, and that's what was going to happen. And I was okay with it. I wasn't like all year tormented by this.
This wasn't distant commentary. It felt raw, personal. His long silence didn't fade away gently. It cracked, and what came out carried weight. As Ron spoke, he hinted at memories directly tied to Rob Reiner. And suddenly people realized their connection had always run deeper than anyone understood. Not just colleagues, not just peers, something heavier, shared history, shared pressure, shared understanding.
These are changing times. Relax. So in their earliest stages, when they might have been able to do something, I think I was a voice kind of telling him to back off as parents. And so
Ron Howard's story suddenly felt louder than ever. Born on March 1st, 1954, in Duncan, Oklahoma, Ron didn't grow up chasing fame. He was raised inside it. His parents, actor Rance Howard and actress Jean Spiegel Howard, built a home where creativity was encouraged.
The film was Apollo 13, which was all about accuracy and authenticity. And slowly but surely, I just began to find real joy and creativity, ingenuity through the research, through the fact-finding, and then finding ways to use everything that I learned about drama and comedy, for that matter, to sort of present these ideas to audiences in ways that could be really, compelling and entertaining,
But discipline never slipped. Long hours, high expectations, constant uncertainty. That mix shaped him early. Before most children understood what cameras were, Ron was already standing under them. At just 18 months old, he appeared in Frontier Woman, unknowingly stepping into a life that never truly paused.
I was married already. We didn't have children yet, but starting to think about a family. And when Cheryl completely supported me turning down the what would have been a huge raise.
By the late 1950s, the family moved to California, and whatever sense of normal childhood might have existed quietly disappeared. Auditions replaced playgrounds, scripts replaced bicycles, Sound stages replaced streets. While other kids scraped knees and lost teeth, Ron memorized lines. Dinner tables became workstations. Tutors hovered near rolling cameras. His childhood wasn't unhappy, but it wasn't free. Years later, Ron would describe it as a golden cage. Safe, yes, but deeply lonely. Everything escalated on October 3rd, 1960, when The Andy Griffith Show premiered. 6-year-old Ron became America's favorite child overnight, the symbol of innocence, the face families trusted.
And so I recognize that ambition, that idea to go beyond, to keep reaching, to keep trying to come up with something else for audiences.
But behind that smile was a quiet boy doing homework in small studio rooms, while laughter echoed somewhere else. Fame looked warm on screen. Up close, it felt cold. His father fought fiercely to protect him, pushing for better scripts and grounding him with one rule that shaped everything: never act cute, act honest. That lesson stayed with Ron for life. But honesty didn't erase the cost. He was adored publicly, yet rarely felt fully his own privately.
It was over. He was taking me over and playing me, tracks he just recorded. Mm-hmm. And, here he was, like, he couldn't contain himself. I mean, he'd start moving and kind of dancing and singing along with the lyrics and stopping and making changes and talking to the engineer. And I could just see how energized he was by the creativity of.
At the same time, Rob Reiner was growing up inside that same system. Another child learning how fame lifts you up while boxing you in. Same pressure, same constant observation, same quiet weight that never really disappears. Those feelings didn't fade when cameras shut off. They stacked up year after year. When The Andy Griffith Show ended in 1968, Ron was only 14, but he had already lived 8 seasons inside a world that wasn't real. His schooling split between classrooms and sound stages, lunch with crew members instead of classmates, surrounded by supportive adults, but isolated in ways few noticed. One moment captures it perfectly.
Through a tough time back in the day with drugs and alcohol.
Well, boy, that was a difficult, heartbreaking time and thing to witness. And
during The Music Man, 8-year-old Ron froze during a dance sequence. He quietly said, "I can't do it." Shirley Jones calmed him down, and the crew adjusted without fuss. The audience saw confidence. Behind the scenes was fear, pressure, and a child trying not to break. That's why Ron's empathy for Rob Reiner cuts so deeply now. Both grew up under lights they didn't choose. Both had strong guiding fathers. Both learned early that behind every perfect scene is a young person struggling to breathe. Those quiet anxieties never left Ron Howard. He simply learned how to hide them well.
And Dad really helped him turn that corner. I think Dad did his very best parenting.
Calm became strategy. Confidence became armor. While others grabbed attention by being loud or bold, Ron observed. He studied rooms. He waited. Then came 1974. Happy Days. At 19, Ron walked into Gary Marshall's office without knowing that Richie Cunningham would once again lock him into America's heart. Polite, loyal, safe, the perfect boy next door. Audiences loved it, but behind the scenes, the walls began closing in. The image people adored boxed him tightly, trapping the real Ron behind a familiar smile. By 1977, at 23, he was still playing a teenager while the world outside was shifting fast. Culture changed. Questions grew louder. But Richie stayed frozen in nostalgia. That disconnect wore him down quietly. Ron asked for one thing, a storyline that touched real events shaping his generation, something honest, something people were actually living through. The answer came back immediately. No, not dramatic, not angry, just final. That rejection didn't explode, it settled. Exhaustion took root. Ron realized that if he wanted his voice back, he had to step behind the camera. That realization mirrored something Rob Reiner would face too. Both men searching for truth inside a system that preferred freezing people in time. Directing wasn't a dream. It was an exit. In 1977, Roger Corman offered Ron a gamble, star in Eat My Dust, and earn the chance to direct his own film. It wasn't about fame anymore. It was about control, ownership, finally steering his own story. That gamble became Grand Theft Auto, co-written with his father, Rance Howard. The budget was tiny. The ambition wasn't. They pulled off massive stunts, destroyed dozens of cars, and somehow turned it into a surprise success. Hollywood noticed, and Ron Howard finally felt something he hadn't felt in years: freedom. Hollywood noticed. What followed wasn't just recognition, it was momentum. For Ron Howard, directing unlocked something acting never fully gave him. It wasn't applause or visibility, it was authorship, control, the ability to shape a story from the inside out. That creative power was intoxicating, but it came with a quiet cost. Every project became personal. Every decision carried weight. Ron didn't just direct films, he carried them. Every note from a studio, every concern from a producer, every expectation. He absorbed outcomes like responsibility belonged to him alone. As the successes stacked up, Night Shift, Splash, Cocoon, Willow, Parenthood, his reputation grew. But so did the pressure. Studios trusted him completely. That trust slowly turned into unspoken demands. By the early 1990s, Ron Howard was no longer the kid from Mayberry. He was a powerhouse. And just like Rob Reiner, he stepped into a spotlight that didn't just illuminate, it burned if you stayed too long. Then came Apollo 13 in 1995. This wasn't just another film. It became a mission. Ron chased authenticity with near obsession. No shortcuts, no manufactured drama. The crew filmed more than 600 zero-gravity sequences, each lasting just 23 seconds. Over and over again, precision mattered, realism mattered. Mission control was reconstructed using actual NASA panels purchased for $1 apiece. Every switch had to be correct. Every movement had to feel earned. Ron worked 18-hour days for months, sleeping little, simplifying nothing. Eventually, the body pushed back. One morning, production stopped. The crew waited. When Ron returned, pale, exhausted, but focused, they greeted him wearing shirts that read, "Mission Control." It wasn't a joke. It was support. Their way of saying, "We've got you." That moment stayed with him. It was the first time Ron fully recognized that passion had crossed a line. The cost of perfection had finally revealed itself. And in that realization, he understood something deeply personal, something Rob Reiner had understood too. Chasing excellence can quietly pull you away from yourself. That lesson never left Ron. So when news about Rob Reiner later shook the industry, what Ron felt wasn't only grief, it was recognition, reflection. Two creators shaped by the same fire. Two men who understood how dedication can turn into isolation if no one steps back in time. Even before Rob Reiner's loss, Ron was already carrying a private heartbreak of his own. In 1991, life looked flawless on paper. His career was thriving, creative control felt complete, and his family was growing. A new baby had just arrived. Everything he had worked toward seemed to be aligning. Then came a choice that quietly altered everything. A 6-month shoot in Ireland for Far and Away. Ron convinced himself he could manage it, that the separation was temporary, that the sacrifice made sense. His wife Cheryl stayed home, holding everything together with their newborn twins and young daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, while Ron disappeared into long days, constant rewrites, unpredictable weather, and non-stop studio pressure. He told himself it would be worth it. But distance has a way of speaking when words don't. When Ron finally returned home, the silence said everything. The house felt different. Laughter felt cautious. The connection felt fragile. And then came the moment that nearly broke him. His baby daughter didn't recognize him. Bryce barely reacted. Cheryl stood there carrying an exhaustion that needed no explanation. Years later, Ron admitted that moment shattered something inside him. That was when the truth hit hard. Success meant nothing if it cost the people he loved most. No award could replace missed time. No praise could repair emotional distance. Ron made a promise that day. Quiet. Firm. He told himself his career would never take more than it gave. But habits built over a lifetime don't disappear easily. In 2005, during the intense reshoots for Cinderella Man, the old pattern crept back in. Sleepless nights, endless decisions, the familiar pressure to deliver perfection. He was gone for months again, and when he returned, his children hadn't just grown taller, they had grown emotionally. Cheryl had carried everything, as she always did, but Ron knew the weight had never been shared equally. That second realization forced him to confront something buried deep. An instinct planted during his childhood acting years. Ron had always believed he had to say yes, had to prove himself, had to exceed expectations every single time. That drive built his career. It also built guilt. In 2025, during his and Cheryl's 50th anniversary, Ron finally set the armor down. Standing at John Burroughs High School, where they first met, he donated a bench in her honor and spoke with a clarity that stunned everyone listening. He said he would trade every award, every successful film, every accolade just to get back the time he lost with his children. No spin, no polish, just truth. That's why Rob Reiner's story cut so deeply. It wasn't only loss, it was recognition. A reminder of everything Ron had fought for, stumbled through, and learned the hard way. And that reflection didn't stop there. It pulled Ron back even further, to the relationship that grounded him long before fame tightened its grip. His bond with his younger brother, Clint Howard. To the public, Clint was a familiar face appearing everywhere. To Ron, Clint was proof that someone else truly understood the strange, exhausting reality of growing up under constant studio lights. They were raised side by side on neighboring sets, passing each other in hallways, buzzing with cables and heat. Two kids earning paychecks before fully understanding who they were. That shared beginning became Ron's quiet anchor. They weren't just brothers, they were survivors. By the late 1980s, Ron watched helplessly as Clint drifted further away. In 1990, Ron finally drew a line. One sentence. No anger, only love. Get help or lose me forever. It was the hardest thing he had ever said, and it worked. Clint chose recovery, chose life. Years later, the brothers shared their truth publicly, crediting honesty and loyalty. It was proof that love, when pushed hard enough, can still pull someone back. But decades later, a new fear entered Ron's life. One he couldn't outwork, one he couldn't plan around. Clint faced a serious health battle. Ron never offered details. He didn't need to. His voice said everything. For a man built on control, this shattered the illusion completely. Ron couldn't edit this, couldn't rewrite it, couldn't protect his brother the way he once had. When fame began to feel heavy, Ron Howard admitted something few people expected. He wasn't afraid of critics. He wasn't afraid of failure. He wasn't even afraid of losing momentum in an industry obsessed with relevance. What truly scared him was losing the one person who had walked beside him through every chapter of his life. That fear changed him. Friends noticed it in subtle ways. The way he slowed his schedule, the way he listened longer before speaking, the way he chose presence over productivity. That quiet shift shaped how he reacted to Rob Reiner's story as well. It wasn't distant sympathy, it was recognition. Ron was forced to face a truth he had avoided for years. No matter how careful you are, some stories sit beyond control. No awards fix that. No perfect framing can soften it. No interview can organize it into something clean. He admitted this realization shook him deeper than any career setback ever had. Not box office pressure, not critical reception. Nothing compares to fear when it touches family. During that period, Ron spoke quietly about long, sleepless nights. Childhood memories replayed in his mind like old film reels. The tiny classrooms on studio lots, the whispered conversations between scenes, the moments that once felt warm but now felt fragile. Guilt followed close behind. Guilt that his career had soared while his brother struggled in silence. Guilt that he didn't see certain signs sooner. Guilt that he couldn't protect the people he loved forever. That realization reshaped everything. Ron began stepping back from extended shoots. He turned down projects he once would have accepted without hesitation. Even his production company shifted, no longer centered entirely around him. No more endless days, no more chasing control for the sake of it. His life narrowed intentionally toward what mattered most. Family dinners, quiet conversations. Ordinary moments that once slipped through the cracks now became non-negotiable. That's why his reflections on Rob Reiner carried such weight. One creator quietly honoring another. Two men shaped by love, loss, and the price of caring too deeply. Today, Ron Howard's world moves slower and softer. He made one thing clear: he refuses to lose the people he loves again. In one of the most honest moments of his career, Ron admitted that the silence between projects had shaped him for decades. He spent years telling other people's stories while neglecting his own. Now, at 71, with a towering legacy behind him, he finally said it out loud. None of it matters if the people you love begin slipping away. Fans weren't shocked that he struggled. They were shocked that he carried it alone. Just as Ron began slowing down, life struck again. News about Rob Reiner landed when Ron was already worn thin, already worried about his brother, Clint Howard, already living with uncertainty. Then came the headline that stopped everything. Rob wasn't just a peer, he was a mirror, loud where Ron was quiet, fearless where Ron was careful, but driven by the same hunger for meaning. When Ron spoke publicly, his voice cracked. He didn't talk about films or awards. He talked about love, family, and how quickly everything can change. "There's no script for moments like this," he said softly. For the first time, the man known for control admitted he had none. Already carrying fear for his brother, the loss of Rob and Michelle hit Ron hard. It felt like life stacking weight on top of weight, a reminder that control is always an illusion. That moment didn't just hurt, it clarified everything. Slow down, be present, hold family tighter than ever. As weeks passed, a quiet tension lingered. Not anger, not blame, regret. Ron and Rob's relationship had always carried layers: respect mixed with rivalry, admiration mixed with distance. Two giants walking parallel paths, rarely colliding, never fully closing the gap. They weren't enemies. They were mirrors, pushing each other forward without ever naming it. Rob's intensity challenged Ron's restraint. Ron's precision steadied Rob's fire. That unspoken dynamic stayed with Ron. He replayed old conversations, missed chances, words left unsaid. When asked about Rob, Ron paused and then spoke softly. "We didn't always agree, but he made me better. Maybe I never told him that." That single sentence said everything. Two storytellers connected by respect, rivalry, and the quiet weight of unfinished conversations. "We were trying to say the same thing," Ron added, "just in different languages." By early 2026, headlines had moved on, but for Ron, nothing had faded. The silence remained loud, not just grief, but the weight of what was never completed. Friends say Ron has been writing quietly. Not a blockbuster, not a studio film, something personal. A story about two creators circling the same truth, mistaking reflection for rivalry, a conversation they never got to finish. When asked if it was about Rob, Ron simply smiled and said, "It's about losing the one person who understood you, even when you didn't always understand each other." And that's where this story ends, not with closure, but with clarity. Two men, different styles, the same fire. In the end, legacy isn't perfection, it's connection. And sometimes, the people who challenge us most are the ones who understand us best. If this story resonated with you, share your thoughts respectfully in the comments. Like the video, subscribe, and share it with others who appreciate thoughtful Hollywood stories. Some stories don't end with the credits. Sometimes that's when they finally make sense.